Most of the time, I am joined by my co-host, Jeff, who is usually on these podcasts, on these shows with me. This was more of a kind of, after I heard about some of the recent developments of what we're about to get to here in a moment, I thought to myself, I was like, you know what, we need to make a show about this immediately. Jeff wasn't available, so I was like, well, we got to get this out there, because not only are there things that major exciting things that we're going to break down about State of Decay 3, so let's get into what happened here. I'm going to take reference, guys, from an article that came out from Pure Xbox, and it's about Xbox Studios, the boss over there. I should say, like, one of the bosses. He had some pretty interesting things to say about State of Decay 3. It's coming to us from Fraser Gilbert over there at Pure Xbox. Xbox Studios boss shares update on progress for State of Decay 3. He says, I have done a number of visits to that studio. And it's interesting to me. I'm wondering if, first and foremost, he's made multiple visits to the studio and all of a sudden is talking about it. And I'm wondering if that... It's a good thing, certainly. The only thing that's just, like I said, weird to me about it is the fact that Undead Labs aren't the ones, giving us progress updates. It's a studio boss at Xbox. So nonetheless, let's not get, too far off here, but those are little details that bother me about the whole situation. But anyways, it's been a long time since we last heard anything on the upcoming Xbox first-party title, State of Decay 3, but the head of Xbox Game Studios was actually questioned about it in an interview with Games Radar. So when asked about whether we'll see more of the game in 2026, Xbox Game Studios boss Craig Duncan advised that he couldn't really talk about it, but offered a tease of his interactions with the game and the dev team in recent months. Okay, this is where it gets interesting. I think the PR in this room will murder me if I give the answer to that, so here's what I'll say. I have done a number of visits to that studio in the last 6 to 8 months. I have sat and played the game with the team a bunch of times. It's coming on really well. We're very excited about the franchise and its potential, so I will certainly see a lot more of it in the coming year. Is that a good answer to your question? What that tells me is that he's basically giving us a tease that there's a game plan here for them to show more information. And to me, this is just me, I believe we're going to certainly be hearing and seeing more of State of Decay 3. And I've stated this for a while, guys. You guys can go back and watch the tape of all the different shows, all of the content that we've been putting on Horror Theory. We have dedicated this channel in terms of the content, for the most part, to State of Decay 3, to the State of Decay universe, because I think it's really important. This is a game that, we care about very much here at Horror Theory, and I just think that there needs to be more of a spotlight on this game, period. I think what he's saying is that there's a plan this year, and so he can't talk about it, right? He can't talk about what they're going to show this year. I do believe that there is a game plan that they are going to show State of Decay 3 at the Xbox Game Showcase, which is more than likely going to be coming in June of this year. Do I think that we're going to see more of it after that this year? I don't. I think that's going to be the only time that we hear or see anything from State of Decay 3 is at the Xbox Game Showcase, because they've given me no indication that they're really communicating with us as a community, that being like Undead Labs and things of that nature. I think they're going to show us something at the Game Showcase, which will probably give us gameplay, true gameplay, and I think they're going to also give us a release year, or maybe like a tentative release date, kind of like what they did with the Xbox Developer Direct. They gave us I believe, what was it? Forza is coming out May of this year. You've got Fable, I think, was Fable autumn of this year. They gave us a tentative, a time of season of this year that it's going to come out. They may do something similar to that with State of Decay 3 at the Xbox Game Showcase. They might say fall of 2027 or, spring of 2027. I do believe that the the release year is 2027. I don't think it's this year. The lineup of games is getting way, like there's just a lot of games that it's getting packed. It's getting very, very packed. And so I think that State of Decay, guys, we've got to look at it from the perspective. We got to play the long game here. I think it's coming next year. But are we going to hear more about it this year? I think we absolutely will. Looking back to our articles on State of Decay in 2025, there was a suggestion in March that it was closer to being finished than you'd think, and then some job roles in the summer appeared to indicate it was in development for PS5. Unfortunately, though, things have gone very quiet on this game since mid last year, so who knows whether it's ready to launch in 2026 or not. Duncan's suggestion about him seeing a lot more of the game this year suggests the public probably won't. I agree 100%. I think that Craig Duncan, the Xbox Game Studios boss, is going to see much more of it this year, right? Obviously, they're keeping a pulse on what's going on. I don't think that means that we necessarily will outside of the Xbox Game Showcase. If they don't show us anything at the showcase, I don't know. I'm gonna get a little bit worried that. Maybe not so much worried that it's going to get like canceled, but worried that it could get delayed another year. Like, because you want to make sure that the way I've always looked at it is Xbox, they have a problem with, they have all of these different studios, right? And so they want to make sure that each studio gets its love or each game gets its love. But what that does on the flip side is some of these games start to get forgotten about. And so then when you end up having like a big, like a reveal or something, it reminds a lot of people, but you want to be constantly in front of people, right? With video games, it's very important that the marketing has got to be on point throughout the course of the journey. Obviously, your marketing is going to ramp up the closer you get to launch, but you want to set reminders. Like you would think that State of Decay is on its third game now. If you don't have it at the Xbox Game Showcase, which is the biggest event for Xbox each year, it doesn't make sense to me. Why would you not show one of, it's not there quite yet, guys. And I mean, I think it's going to be getting there, right? I believe that State of Decay will be one of Xbox's flagship games after State of Decay 3. And what I mean by a flagship game, I look at, we look at games like Gears of War. We look at games like Halo. We look at games, I mean, you could maybe even look at something like Fable. Flagship titles that are here to stay long term, that have built these fan bases, and it usually takes, it could take 2 games, but I would say a trilogy or 3 games is really what you get, that large sample size of 3 titles that have done really, really well, and now it's become like this flagship ordeal. And Gears of War has done that, Halo's done that, and certainly Gears and Halo, they're both in like a bad state. Obviously, we're excited about Gears of War, and who knows about the future of Halo, but State of Decay has a real opportunity to become a flagship title for Xbox at some point in the future, after State of Decay 3 releases. So the great news here, guys, is that from what Craig Duncan is saying, is that he's going to be seeing more of the game. He can't really talk about like if we're going to see more this year. I think that, like I said, I believe that there's a plan this year to show more of the game, and that's why he's not talking about it. Because I feel like he would have just said, hey guys, like they're really hard at work at it. You'll see it here in the foreseeable future, or, at some point. But the fact of the matter that he said this line, I think the PR in this room will murder me if I give you the answer to that. And the reason why I'm thinking that is because if there wasn't anything to show, they could just say, look, guys, it could be another year away. Like, think about Elder Scrolls. They're like, this game's years away, right? He could have easily said that. He could have said, guys, it's still, you're going to be hearing more probably in the next, year or so. Like, they're still heavily in development, whatever. And so anyways, I think this gives us something. It gives us something.